No joke, the River Severn looks more like the Ganges today. There has been a lot of local flooding for a number of reasons, and the floodplains of the River Severn are just completely saturated. So I thought it might actually make a nice image. Now let's hope first and foremost that this is the extent of the flooding, because flooding is terrible. I'm sorry if you have been affected by flooding in the past, but I'm just trying to see if there is a photo to be had, because the one thing that I was thinking about flooding is you're going to see photos that you would never see normally, because I mean, look at all these trees. They wouldn't normally be in the middle of what looks like the sea. There's a solitary tree on its own in the middle of the water, which I think looks really great. So I'm going to photograph that. So you probably know by now that one of my favourite things about photography is trying to capture a frame within a frame. I think that's the wedding photographer in me bursting to get out, and what I've managed to do here is sort of capture the shoreline of the overspill of the river on the bottom of the frame, and we've got a little bit of hanging cloud on top of the Malverns, which I think will look really good. And we're literally just giving it another 5 minutes because the sun's going to set any second, to see if any colour, but if not, I think it works, because I've shot this at 2.8. Now I know some of you will be falling out of your chair hearing that, but what I really want to do is attract all the attention to the skyline, to the horizon of the Malverns, and just want to give it a little bit of a I can't believe this is Malvern kind of look, really, because I can't believe this is Malvern. This is crazy that we're doing Seascapes in Malvern. That could be the title of this video, Seascapes in Malvern. What do you reckon? Should we get a stick of rock, get a deck chair? Gonna donkey ride? Jump on. Well, that is so typical. The scene that I want to try and capture is this, but look what happens when we move over here. We've got this amazing colour. It's very vibrant pink, you can't see it on the camera. But that's just typical, isn't it? The colours over there, behind the pylon. Well, that was, I wouldn't say disappointment, because you never really know if it's a disappointment until you look at the files on the computer. But that sunset, as my mate Tim Day would say, was a bit meh. Just didn't really happen. And it's very blue, and I'm not a big fan of blue hour landscapes. It's more the feeling of just being surrounded by water, which is crazy. And I accidentally took a shot a minute ago that focused on the middle ground, which was the water, which I think might work as a stock image. So I might take that, edit it, and send it away to some local newspapers. They might be interested in it. But anyway, so we're going to head back to the car now, and I'll show you what I've done on the computer, and we're going to edit these seascapes from Malvern together. Aren't we? Oh, should we get some fish and chips? Shall we actually? Electric pylon in the river. Not good. I've just jumped to the future now, because I'm obviously back at the computer ready to edit this this photo or two. Might do a few, but anyone who does YouTube videos will know exactly how I'm feeling. I have just done about a 15-minute video talking about this edit, and the screen recording didn't record, and it's just makes you want to tear your hair out. Anyway, so here we go for the second time. So as you can see, I've got a few photos here that are starred, that are my favourites that I took. Now this is a pano. I'm not thrilled with this. I'm not sure if this was my error or not, but it hasn't stitched together properly, so I can't use that. This one is probably my favourite. This one is ISO 100 f22 at half a second, which I quite like. Quite like the dreamlike look on the water, so I think we're probably going to end up editing that. This one is another one that I really like. This is what I was talking about, a frame within a frame. I like how the clouds echo what the grass is doing, top and bottom of the frame. It's quite a nice little shot. And finally, this is the one I was talking about where I accidentally missed the focus, and I sort of focused on the reflection of the tree. Now, I quite like that because if you look closely at the ripples of the water, they look very, very abstract. Now, if it wasn't for them being the water being really dirty and little bits of grass poking through, then, you know, that might make a really quite pleasing abstract photograph. But I don't think that's quite right, so I'm going to ignore that. I might edit that one later anyway, and that was the one I was talking about, which might be quite good as it's quite environmental. It's about flooding and all that, and I think it's quite a cool image, so that one will be my second choice. But anyway, let's get on with editing this one. So first of all, I am going to straighten up this horizon because I'm not happy with that at all. So let's just have a look at that. That should be straight. I'm against the line there. My horizon is, yep, good. And then I'm just going to crop in from the left because there's there were some branches from another tree on the outside of that as well, which I don't like. And as well, as I come in, I might take it slightly left because in the bottom right hand of the corner, the bottom right hand corner of the photograph, we've got some grass that I don't really like, which I think looks a bit messy, a bit clumpy. And I'm quite happy with the minimalism of the shot from the bottom, from the grass point of view. Now, if I pull in there, that looks quite good. The cloud isn't kissing the top of the frame, so it's it's okay. It's not the best photograph I've ever taken, but it's good enough. It's good enough, I think. So now, after I've just played with that composition and sort of tweaked that composition, first things first, I'm going to get rid of some of this foreground that I don't like. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm just going to clone that out. If you're a clone snob, then look away now, or leave me a nasty comment, one of the two. And that looks quite cool. Now, this was at half a second, so everything is kind of a little bit dreamlike. So to enhance that, what I'm going to do is get a graduated filter on the bottom of the shot, and I'm going to bring back the exposure so it's all, you know, in line with the normal exposure. Saturation, again, don't need to move that. Now the clarity, I'm going to remove all the clarity out of the waves, the ripples of the water, and I'm going to take that down to about -60, and quite happy with that. Now in that breath, I don't know what will happen now, but as I choose the radial filter, I'm just going to draw a line over these, throw a lasso, I don't know what the word is, the cowboy thing. I'm going to throw that around some of that grass, invert that mask. Again, don't need to touch the saturation or the exposure, but I'm going to increase that clarity. So that kind of brings a little bit more clarity back into the bottom, immediate bottom of the frame, which I quite like. And that looks good. Now, sticking with the bottom of the frame, I'm now going to enhance that reflection. So I'm going to draw a little Easter egg shape, and I'm going to drag that to the bottom, invert that mask again. I don't know why I've got that set to invert to the mask being uninverted, but I don't know how to change it, if I'm being honest. And I'm going to add a bit of clarity. I'm actually going to pull back the exposure a little bit to show that darker area of the tree on the other as a reflection, which I think is quite cool. And just while I'm doing the waves, I'm actually going to do, and that's a bit too much looking at it, so a bit too much exposure has been taken out. So let's go back to about 10, -10, that's fine. And then if I zoom in, there's a bit of driftwood halfway up the photo, which I could get rid of, but I actually quite like. So I'm going to actually just pull a bit of focus toward it. So let's go and darken that, and we'll invert that mask again. And let's enhance that a little bit. I quite like the mysterious, it's a mysterious shape which I quite like, so I'd like to leave that in, which is quite good. So that's the bottom half of the frame I'm quite pleased with. I'm actually going to draw in a grad filter from the right hand side just to darken that, because the right hand side of my frame is a little bit bright. So I'm just going to pull back the exposure to about -40, and that looks a little bit more balanced. I quite like. And I'm going to draw a grad filter from the top, pull that down, and again, all I'm looking to do is just take the exposure down, and I probably will take a bit of clarity out of that cloud as well, because I don't want it to look, it's not an angry atmospheric image, this, I don't think so. So that's pretty good. Now the next thing I'm going to do is press the spot removal. I'm going to press the visualize spots tool, and I'm going to get rid of all these rogue spots that are on my sensor, because I was at f22 for this shot, and when your aperture is quite high in number value, then you're going to show all those unwanted spots. They're going to come out of the woodwork, so you obviously want to get rid of them. So let's just have a look what that looks like. Yeah, that looks good enough to me. That's good. And in fact, what I'm going to do with that graduated filter from the top of the sky is I'm actually going to introduce a little bit of saturation, because towards the top left there's a little bit of a pink smear across the top, which I quite like. So I'm going to enhance that by just increasing the saturation slightly. Now, I haven't altered or played with any of what I call the master sliders yet, so exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows, whites and blacks. So let's do that next. Now, let's do the overall exposure. I'm actually quite happy with. What I'm not happy with is the white balance. So let's move that to the right slightly. So it's on 5100 or 5150. I'm just going to take that to the right to about 5800 Kelvin. I think that's a little bit more of shot of what I had in mind. It's just a little bit warmer, a bit less blue. Partly because of my intolerance to blue. Don't really like the colour blue, really. And again, what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to do the opposite to what I usually do. So I'm going to actually pull down the contrast. So I'm pulling that to the left, and I'm going to increase the highlights and just take down the shadows. So yeah, that does compensate for taking down the contrast, but it's quite a pleasing effect if I just take down the shadows, increase the highlights, and pull that back slightly to about -20, because it's quite a contrasty image anyway, so I don't want it to be overly contrasty. So again, what I'll do is I'll pull up the whites here, and my blacks I'm just going to just a couple below 0, -4. And yeah, so that's quite a bright image. I mean, if you look at my histogram, I don't think it's clipping. Let me just have a good look at it. So I can pull back on the white slightly. You don't want to get that 100% white look, because otherwise you will get clipping, and it's not that much of a great look really. Now the last thing I like to do is what I call reverse saturation. So I go quite heavy on the vibrance, go to about +30, then I pull back on the saturation to about -20. And that just gives me quite a nice, I don't really know how to describe it. It's not really a hipster or kind of vintagey look. It's desaturated, but slightly desaturated, which I quite like. And I'm going to increase a bit of clarity. And we'll go to about +15, I think. And I think that isn't far from being done. I actually quite like that. I'm actually going to take away a little bit of blue. I don't want to make it black and white, but I'm going to pull back on the blue, because it's the colour blue is very dominating in this image. And I'm actually going to increase the orange and the red, just because we've got a slight bit of a different option to blues in the top left corner. So I'm just going to enhance that. It's very subtle though. And I'm going to increase that sharpening to about 40. I think that's quite cool. I'm going to get a vignette in there, because I just vignette everything. I absolutely love vignettes. just really brings the eye into the middle. And I'm toying whether to do something with the Malvern Hills in the background, and I don't think I am actually. I think I'm going to actually leave them where they are. I think that's pretty much everything I want to do. Now what I'm just going to bring up the exposure of the whole photograph slightly. I think my problem is with the ripples of the water. I think I just want to increase that slightly. Yeah, I'm going to get a bit of contrast in the water so you can really brings out the reflection of that tree. The sort of watercolour effect, which I like. Drop those highlights in the bottom half of the picture. Drop those shadows too, just slightly, not too much. And I'll go a little bit further towards 0 with the clarity, I think. We can add a little bit of contrast by taking the blacks down and the whites up. And yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Yes, so I think that, oh, it's a little bit clippy. So let's just take that exposure back to about 20 above. Let's bring those highlights a bit further towards 0 and the whites back. Yeah, that's quite a cool image. I really like that now. It's very simple. It's almost black and white. In fact, I'm just going to make one subtle change because on the right hand side I can see a little bit of tree poking in, and let's just clip that out and done. So there we go, voila. It's not the best picture I've ever taken in my life, but I think it's quite effective. I really like it, and I don't think I might not ever get a chance to take this photograph again. Who knows? I hope not anyway, because I don't want any flooding coming too near where we are. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. That's quite nice. It's full of mood. Yeah, fair enough, we didn't get any colour on the sunset, but you can't win them all. So there you go. Shot settings for those of you that are interested. Half a second, f22 ISO 100. I was at 76mm with my 70-200 f2.8. And I'm quite happy with that. I think that looks quite nice. So that's the end of the video. Thanks very much for watching, folks. I will see you on Monday for another miscellaneous Monday at 7 PM. But if I don't catch you then, I'll see you next Thursday for next week's vlog. See you soon, folks. Like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends.